I've been telling you a lot over the last couple of years of what I've been writing, reading bits of it to you, talking about places I've lived: Sri Lanka, Madagascar, Morocco, my job on the canals. And they always tell you, write about what you know, or what you think you know. Those are often two very different things. But I haven't talked about, and I've only been writing lately, about a really important time in my life when I lived in Malibu, which sounds very fancy, but it wasn't, although it was great fun. I was a theater major, and so after I graduated, it's not like I had a whole bunch of potential employers hanging outside my door, begging me to go to work for them. And it's a long story I won't get into, but I ended up my first job out of college. I was a gardener for these two doctors in Malibu, above Zuma Beach, if you know Malibu at all, which was fairly unpopulated back then. A lot of sage and eucalyptus, and the hills were bare behind you. Lots of homes there now. But I know that sounds really ritzy, but it wasn't, and that was kind of half the fun of it. I worked for these two doctors who became very dear to me and their kids. John and Debbie needed a gardener and someone to look after the kids a little bit, and they had this great plot of land there above Zuma Beach. What they didn't have was a house. They had neglected to get their building permit when they sold their previous house, so we were all squatting kind of semi-illegally on the land there. And they'd pulled this rickety old trailer. I wouldn't even call it a mobile home, an old trailer onto the property, and the kids slept in there. It had no heat, and it had running water, but it had no toilet. We had an outhouse. I mean, how many people in Malibu live with an outhouse? And there was no phone. We had the only thing we had was construction workers had started to work on the house a couple of weeks after I got there, and they nailed a payphone to a telephone pole, and that was our only phone. And there was no room for John and Debbie in the trailer, much less for me. So they'd cleaned out this horse stable and made a very nice little bedroom. It was very cozy. They had a light in there, and it was very nice, but there was no room for me. And so I had a tent, and that was my summer, living in a tent in Malibu and meeting all sorts of weird people. I mean, I was one of them, right? And I knew this fellow, good friend of mine, was living in a loft above a garage, a really nice room that he had for free, for agreeing to build this changing room above the bluffs, on the bluffs above the beach there in Malibu. And he could draw that thing out forever, and they never complained. And another woman friend, her job was to feed these dogs twice a day. So that's 20 minutes worth of work, and she got free room and board for Malibu, just like I got free room and board for working a couple of hours in the garden and making sure the kids, well, I didn't have to worry about them burning down the house. There wasn't one. And I knew of another guy. He had won a quiz show, made $25,000 doing that, which back in the mid-'70s was a lot of money. And did he pay for his education with that? No. Did he put a down payment on a house looking to his future? No. He didn't even buy a fancy surfboard. He just sat in the sand. He rented a cheap motel room, which they used to have a few in Malibu back then. And he sat in the sand playing cards all day, fleecing people in poker. He could make this last forever. He'd been doing this for, a year and a half or something when I heard about him. For all I know, he's still there. Well, I tried to write about this many, many years ago. I wrote my first, I hate to even call it a novel, it's so bad. And I pulled it out about a year and a half ago, read through it. It's just, wow, it's a stinker. And yet I kind of liked the elements in it, and the characters in it. They become kind of real to you, even those ones you make up entirely. And I felt like I had let them down by not writing about them well enough. So I've been working at that really hard. And my fear is, after several months of work, that I'll never be able to make anything worthwhile out of that thing. I'm trying. I'm working on structure, trying to get the right things in the right places to flesh out the characters and make it more interesting. My fear is that it's more important for me to read than it is, to write rather, than for anybody else to read. But maybe I'll be talking about a finished work one of these days that'll go on to be published. If you have any great ideas, by the way, drop me an email. It's Stephen with a PH, Stephen W. Holgate at gmail.com. I can't offer you a prize. If you come up with a great idea, maybe I'll send you a pen or something. I'll at least say thanks. Let me read just a little tiny bit of what I'm working on here. It's about this kid, Colin Baker. He has come to LA from living up in Fresno, the big valley of California, which is kind of a brutal place to live. And he's come to a restaurant called Sea Shadows where he thinks he can get a job. So I'll read. He comes into the place. It's about 3 or 4 pages into it. Sea Shadows was cool in its darkness after the bright sunshine blinded Colin to everything but the sea and the sky shining through the tall windows at the far end of the dining room, the scene as vivid and unreal as the picture on a movie screen. Across this screen, a man and a woman, tanned and blonde, almost naked in their swimsuits, strolled along the beach like gods, gazing out to sea. "We're closed." Colin jumped at the sound of the voice. Intermittent flashes of light knifed through a pair of swinging doors, silhouetting a short, stocky man with his arms crossed over his chest. "Lunch is over. We open again at 5. He was about 40 or so, with curly black hair, thin on top, arms like a wrestler, and a face bludgeoned by bitterness. Yeah, I know." Colin stood up straight, trying to make an impression. "But Doug Kipe, he sent me," and he said, "Who?" The man wrinkled his nose as if Colin were a 3-day-old fish. "Doug Kipe, he used to be the manager here." The man shrugged. "A lot of guys used to be the manager here. I got work to do. I don't get at it. I'll used to be the manager here too." While he spoke, he twisted a white towel in his hands like the Boston Strangler getting ready to go to work. "So Kipe sent you. What for?" "Kipe. I met him in Fresno playing the guitar." Colin felt as if he were making phrases in a foreign language and not getting them quite right. "What are you saying? Kipe's taken up the guitar at this late stage in his life?" "No." Colin laughed, suppressing the impulse to choke this guy until his tongue turned black. "No, I worked for him, Mr. Kipe, up at the Chart House in Fresno, singing, playing guitar, but I wanted to come to L.A. He said you might need someone." The man's eyes opened wide in mock wonder. "Oh, a guitar player, and you're going to come to L.A. and take the place by storm, starting from Sea Shadows. Wow, am I excited." He turned toward the kitchen door behind him. "Hey, everyone, come on out. We got the new James Taylor here." No response came from the kitchen. "Look, kid, what do you play?" "No, leave the guitar alone. Just tell me what you can play." "Anything you want. I can..." "Do you play Tie a Yellow Ribbon?" "No." "How about My Way?" "No." "Great, you're hired. What's your name?" "Colin Baker." He held out his hand. The man gave it a quick, crushing shake. "Jerry Morgan, look, I got to get back to work. Good to have you here, kid. Say hi to Mr. Kipe for me." "Yeah, will do." Anyway, that's what I have here in these first opening pages. Sorry if my reading was a little uncertain, but I've been rewriting it a lot, and I find sometimes the words aren't what I remember them being. Anyway, wish me luck on this one. I'll talk to you again next week. Take care.